I think Vini Jr.'s participation is very positive, man. Has he already fallen? He has already fallen. He's politically dead, but still in power. In other words, we're slipping off the second tier of football. It's very tragic. That's 6 presidents, 7 administrations. In these 7 administrations, the presidents were removed because of scandals. Lúcio de Papo is having the biggest hangover in the World Cup hangover, the yellow CBF hangover. But let's keep going. We have to go. No one ever said it would be easy.
How much does this recent scandal involving Sami Chaudhry, Samir Shaud, and others before affect the results on the field?
In the biggest way possible, absolutely. The succession of scandals, the last incident you just showed, the report by Vicente Seda, no, not Seda. It's unimaginable for an institution where the last 6 presidents were removed because of scandals. There have been 7 administrations, 6 presidents, because in the meantime, the ineffable Coronel Nunes served in 2 administrations. So 6 administrations, 2 presidents, 7 administrations. In these 7 administrations, presidents were removed due to scandals. This is unheard of in any other institution worldwide. I can't recall anything similar and have thought about it a lot. I can't remember another institution where you had 6 presidents and in the last 7 administrations, the guys were removed because of scandals. Scandals of all kinds. Corruption, I mean, from Ricardo Teixeira to the others. Corruption, sexual harassment, workplace bullying, there's everything on this menu. So, there's no parallel to this in any institution in Brazil or abroad. There's no way an institution with this history can work, and there's still an aggravating factor. These institutions, and it's become common to say that since they're private institutions, they can't be supervised, they can't undergo greater intervention. Which is a lie, because it's provided for by law. There are loopholes in the law. I've already talked about this with a lot of specialists, jurists, and prosecutors. The CBF is an institution of public interest. So this intervention is absolutely possible and it's within the law. But you have an institution that has a history of harboring corrupt people and criminal activity, and that isn't supervised. So that's the chaos. This is totally reflected in what we're seeing on the field and in this tragedy we're experiencing on the field.
What can be done to change this history of controversies and scandals that have been happening for a long time and through many administrations at the CBF?
That's the $100 million question. What should be done? There needs to be a complete change. We would need much greater oversight, a change in the system, because you have a corrupt system where federation presidents, who also have the same track record, always elect someone just like them, right? There's no renewal. And these guys stay in power forever, right? So I don't see any prospect at all for any kind of change.
Is it possible to link Brazil's elimination by Norway and other eliminations in previous World Cups to this poor management at the head of the CBF?
Absolutely, absolutely, because football has changed a lot. In the past, it was possible, right? It was a more romantic kind of football. You weren't dependent, but football has changed a lot. The structures of the federations have modernized. So you have to achieve some level of excellence in management, etc., for that to be reflected on the field. The gap is very big when you have such a tragic management like Norway's.
I think so. Other confederation administrations are also chaotic and still manage to achieve some success, like the case of AFA in Argentina. How do you explain that?
What explains it, essentially, is genius. Yeah, in the AFA, for example, you have the management of Tic Tac, which is also a tragedy. It has the same corruption problems and even bigger problems than in Brazil, because, for example, the amount of money there is much smaller. The starting point is the size of Brazilian football, its size, and I'm not talking about quality or achievements. At this moment, it would be really dumb to say that, right? But really, the actual size in terms of money, the size of the countries, and so on. So you also have management that's involved in scandals, terrible, tragic management, but you have geniuses, true prodigies, man, immense generational talent that we don't have. So, I think that the existence of Messi, just like Maradona back then, just like Pele here, explains a lot about how within all this chaos, you can manage to overcome everything. In Argentina, besides having a genius like Messi, who ends up being superior to all the problems of Tic Tac's management, there was also a recovery of an identity and a way of playing that they remain very faithful to even today. And this is due to the presence of Menotti in the 70s, who brought back this La Nuestra.
What is Brazil's place today in the international football scene?
Man, that's a question that really troubles us, right? Because Brazil has left the top tier a while ago. Now we're talking about Argentina, France, Germany. At this moment, it's not doing well either. That top tier, which was always Brazil's place, is one Brazil has left. But now Brazil is losing at the second tier level and struggling to establish itself there. If you look at the last eliminations, Belgium, Croatia, Norway, they're all second tier teams, and Brazil can't beat teams at that level anymore. Brazil struggles against Japan, which means we're slipping from the second tier of football. It's very tragic.
Are Sammy Trotti's days numbered as the head of the CBF?
So we're talking about political games, right? Which is... He is totally weakened. He was chosen to be a puppet in the hands of the other administrations to make things work. It's worth us rethinking. Tarcísio Sammy Trotti was not the president of a federation. He was the son of a president and became president later. This guy was chosen like, look, we're going to put you there, my son, but you're going to do everything we want. But the thing is, once someone gets in, they start to have a life of their own. Actually, not that, their own will, right? And then they start to go against it. And is the game really tough? The one who put him there also starts wanting a bigger piece of the pie. So, it's not because of a lack of merit, because he really doesn't have any major achievements, but that's not the reason he's going to fall. It's because of the crazy power struggle. Now, all that's left is for us to see how it's going to turn out. If it's in the interest of those who want to bring him down, look, are we going to take this now or are we going to wait? We have an election soon, let him stay there quietly. We just take our share here and there, and soon we'll step in. Has he already fallen? He has. He's a dead man walking in power. He's there like a ghost. And as for the people there, it's just a matter of whether they'll want to make their move now or later.
And what do you see as positive in Brazil's participation in the World Cup, if there's anything positive at all?
I think Vini Jr.'s performance was very positive, man. He's a guy who comes in carrying all that weight against him, someone who suffers some of the most abject racism in the world and has to deal with the unfair claim that he couldn't perform for the national team and so on. And then, this guy comes in, steps up and is able to take the lead. He is the main figure for Brazil at all times. And in fact, in the last game, he made that spectacular pass. It's deeply unfair to blame him for not taking the penalty. He wasn't the penalty taker for the national team. Yeah, the choice is Ancelotti's, and then they want to blame him for it. And I think there's a bit of ignorance there because the facts don't show that the choice was Ancelotti's. And there's also racism involved, of always wanting to, like it was with Barbosa and Bigode in 1950. You pick the black guy to blame, and now some blame Vini Jr., who doesn't deserve it. I think he was the main positive, showing he could handle the pressure. He arrived bearing the world's weight on his shoulders. There are very few positive things. The positive thing is Vini Jr., who up until the moment Brazil played, went head-to-head with the big names in this World Cup. Haaland, Messi, and Mbappe. He was right there on the same level.
Does Lúcio de Castro still think an organization can exist where football is prioritized over everything off the field?
I don't. In our current system, no. Not at all. No, because the system is rigged and that's what it's there for. Now, I think we can't in any way do a Lúcio de Papo episode today. Any reflection today about what happened with the Brazilian national team? We can't leave out what happened with Neymar. It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen, and the image doesn't leave my mind. I think everyone feels the same. You start watching Argentina's games, the stars all supporting each other. Man, it's like in such a difficult moment for Brazil, the guy decides to step up and rally the team. That image, I think everyone was really perplexed by it. That guy laughing there, swaying back and forth, going to provoke the goalkeeper. What's the clearest image you have of that moment? When someone scores a goal, runs, grabs the ball from inside the goal, and runs to the center of the field. Neymar is the only guy in history who can pull that off. He can pull off something like that at any moment similar to this. When you're losing and score, you usually grab the ball from the goal and run. He was the first not to do that. He preferred to make that moment his own by doing something unbelievable. I mean, he's a guy who was brought in when he wasn't fit at all. He was called up by a national team when he couldn't even say he was going to play against Recoleta anymore. He was called up because of all the pressures that exist with the call-ups to the Brazilian national team. For marketing reasons, there was no way he could play. He goes on the field and does that absurd thing. And so I repeat, there's nothing like it. You don't see that image, it's really impressive, you know? And I think there's no way to make any analysis, and this has to be included, about the national team's performance and what happened. At the squad announcement, that grotesque event at the Museum of Tomorrow, while every other national team in the world was just sending in its list. And Brazil throws a party where a lot of people made money. Then you have a huge celebration because of the call-up of a player who hasn't played soccer in 3 years. And this guy goes onto the field and decides to act up right when Brazil needs him the most. He decides to put on that grotesque display. I mean, are these our idols? Yeah, I think that no analysis about Brazil can ignore that moment. Guys, Lúcio de Papo is on the air again. Let's keep going. Thanks, appreciate it. Still feeling the aftermath, but the chat was good. Let's keep going.
Ask them to subscribe to the channel.
I'll honor you with this story. And subscribe to the channel and give it a like. Let's keep going. So go ahead, guys. They're asking. Listen to his voice. Put his voice on. Ask them to subscribe. There you go. Subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the channel. And that's it. And then